Well, is there ever a point in time when you would since clean out your tank and scrub down or remove the biofilm and the sludge that's
As a
there?
matter of fact, Michelle, I have an article here that was the product of a year of debate in Australia, and there's a newspaper in Australia bought by most rural people called The Land, and it ended up an article in The Land, which was read by um, a lot of rural people who are good at managing their rainwater harvesting systems anyway.
Hmm.
It was a surprisingly popular article, and it started from the issue of we've got some product providers in the rainwater industry and trying to sell chlorine-like materials that were just put in the rainwater storage every day, which I was horrified to hear that because it can be quite dangerous. And the other one was people selling tank vacuums and saying you need to vacuum your tank every day to make it safe.
Hmm.
Those things are profoundly wrong. So what actually happened out of that is, how do you manage your tank?
Hmm.
I like this article because I ended up with 9 or 10 dot points of steps you will take. So, so as we've talked about before, the health issues of rainwater harvesting systems are rare
Hmm.
in Australia, where we have lots of them. This is due to a natural treatment train. Um, that is a rainwater harvesting system, and the anatomy of the rainwater harvesting system hosts the treatment train. It is the treatment train. It's part of the process. Um, so water utility end of line water treatment plant philosophy cannot be applied to rainwater harvesting systems because of the natural treatment trains.
Hmm.
However, this end of line philosophy is applied to a range of rainwater treatment products and services available in the market. So I don't know how it is in North America, but there's a booming market for these things in Australia. So, so our national surveys of rural rainwater harvesting systems have provided us some fantastic insights. Country people understand their rainwater harvesting systems and have a successful legacy methods of managing the rainwater treatment train. They may not
Right.
have known about the rainwater treatment train, but they were doing stuff for decades
Hmm.
to keep their rainwater treatment train working properly.
Okay. So what did they do? Or
So
what do you do?
their primary, and this is very Australian, but North Americans would appreciate this. Their primary method is, if it's working, leave it alone.
Right.
Don't get all this other stuff if it's working okay.
Hmm.
So I know it's very Australian, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Hmm.
And we found that in our research. We tested that. All farmers who live and survive on rainwater harvesting in Australia, we wanted to know why their so-called untreated rainwater was so successful. It was basically, if it's working okay, leave it alone. Don't touch it. Don't tinker with it. Don't buy products. It's okay.
Hmm.
However, the the second thing that they do is they have simple checks. If the rainwater supply at the tap, very important, at the tap where you are using it is clear and it doesn't smell, it's probably okay too.
Hmm.
So they're simple tests. Um, in situations where there's no leaf diverters or first flush devices or mesh screens on inlets that we were just talking about,
Hmm.
debris and sediments and other materials can inflow to tanks from roofs.
Hmm.
And these can, during rain events, these materials can occasionally cause problems. So decomposing organic material, such as leaves, is the major cause of concern in rainwater harvesting systems. So concern with users, not health concerns, concern. Because it smells terrible and the water's an ugly colour, a grey green colour, and it
Hmm.
smells like rotten eggs, and it's very unpleasant. So that's not some horrible bacteria, it's just decomposing leaves often. And
Would you get sick to drink that?
If there was enough material in the water, it'd sort of make you feel unpleasant. That's for
Mm-hmm.
sure. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not a pathogen vector, for
Mm-hmm.
example.
Right.
But if your water's smelly and discoloured,
Don't drink it.
um, don't drink it.
Yeah.
It's a good test. Um, so this rainwater storage is a key element in the treatment train. We've talked about that before. The process of sedimentation and the water surface microlayer, natural flocculation and biofilms, and the sludge, which I've just talked about, act to improve the quality of the rainwater.
Mm-hmm.
So if you leave that treatment train alone, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, which is what our rural rainwater harvesters have done throughout Australia. Their philosophy is correct in not disturbing the storage. So the process is working. Our research found that the assumption that you need to desludge or clean out a rainwater harvesting system might sometimes make marginal improvements, but more often than not made the water quality worse. So it's no-brainer, isn't it? Oh, there's a sludge in the bottom of my tank. I'll just keep desludging it because it's going to make my water quality worse.
Right.
But when you do that, you're actually destroying the rainwater treatment train, and you're actually upsetting the equilibrium of the system, and you're making the water quality worse, not better. So,
okay, so when do you clear a rainwater tank, if ever?
well, this is the point. If it ain't broke, leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't smell, if the rainwater doesn't smell and it's clear, leave it alone. So when do you clean a rainwater tank?
I guess it
The answer
smells.
is there needs to be a good reason to clean a tank.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And some investigation is needed prior to taking such a decision.
Mm-hmm.
That people can help with this. Our book will help with this. This course will help with this.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a protocol which will be published in the course.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you check if the rainwater supply at the tap is discoloured or it smells. If no, don't do anything. If yes, then you go to step 2. Inspect the rainwater stored in the storage. So you can look in the top or turn the tap on, or if the water is discoloured below the water surface, such as suspended fine debris or organic material,
Mm-hmm.
if yes, then go to the next step. Wait for 6 to 24 hours and have another look, because rainwater systems improve themselves. Their quality improves with time. And if there's still not an improvement, then you've got some sort of a problem. So adding additive to this tank is not going to actually fix it, like chlorine or things like that. So we advise to use, say for outdoor use, that stored water, or drain the stored water from the tank and inspect the sludge.
Drain it out. Right.
There's no things you can add to that that are going to fix that. Because if you've got suspended material in your water column, and UV is not going to fix that, chlorination is not going to fix that. All those things people talk about don't fix that. You've got to empty the storage, because what's probably happened is fine debris has got in the storage, it's floating, and it will stay in storage until you empty the tank. So the answer there is not tank vacuuming or sludge clearing. The answer to that particular problem, persistent suspended material in the tank, is you need to empty it. There's no other way to solve it.
And improve your screens so that you don't get more stuff coming back in.
That was my next note.
Oh, sorry.
If this is happening, Michelle, your design is not right.
Right.
So go and fix up your screens, put in a leaf diverter.
Mm-hmm.
If you let organic debris and material enter your storage, that is going to happen.
Close the holes. Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure that stuff can't enter your storage.
Mm-hmm.
There's a note here that it says chemical additives will not solve this type of problem, nor will tank vacuuming or any other issue like that. You simply need to empty it. Um, Also check to ensure that, well, debris can't enter the tank. Mesh screens, leaf diverters, first flush, which is what we've just talked about. If you've got a problem like this, there's something wrong in your design. So you can keep throwing things at it to maintain it, but what it's really saying to you, your design needs to be fixed. And it could be as simple as putting in a leaf diverter. So if you have a wet system or a charge line, so that's a situation where the water flows off the roof and the downpipe goes down below the ground and then pops up again using the head from the roof to top up the rainwater storage. Those systems can become horrible and smelly if you don't have screens upstream of them, because if they have organic materials in them, they're just sitting there like an incubator in that little part between rain events, so in the wet part, and the material will be decline rapidly. So I've got to step 7 in the little guidelines we'll be publishing in the course. You can see we've addressed 95% of the problems we have with rainwater harvesting systems is because leaves and debris get into them, not because of pathogens and everything else. So you can solve most of these problems by some simple steps, but none of them can be solved by tank vacuuming and adding chlorine or UV on the end of the system. So this is why you need to understand the treatment trade. None of those traditional additives to rainwater harvesting will fix this problem. So if your tank sludge layer is near or above the outlet of the rainwater storage and the debris is drawn into the rainwater supply and it's causing a problem, then you would use an adequate cleaning technique such as tank vacuuming, because your sludge layer's got out of control.
Right. It's at the inlet of where you're trying to draw water from, so you need to lower that for that reason. But I mean,
then you would clean it.
I know. I mean, but just from what I know from designing septic systems, I suspect it's similar in that those sludge layers don't actually just accumulate and accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. I mean, it's a biologically active system, and it's actually eating itself, and it's Am I correct?
What we found in urban areas is, in spite of all the rhetoric, the sludge layer built up at rates between 1 and 5 millimetres per year, but it wasn't a constant rate. It was a log relationship, so it steadied off. You only got excessive amounts of sludge if you had, say, a roof in a ploughed paddock where there's lots of soil materials being blown onto the roof and it was building up, or in a situation where you didn't have good mesh screens and lots of debris was entering the rainwater storage all the time and it was building the sludge. In a normal situation, your sludge layer has never really become significant. So the only other issue that could happen in a very long period of time is if your sludge layer became very anaerobic and become acidic, and that would take a long time to happen. But it is a small potential. You would understand that by discoloration of the water that's driven from the bottom up, but very, very low pH results in your water. So you would clean it then as well. So the other really important step is, following tank cleaning or tank refilling, you need to wait for the water supply at the tap to become clear and free of odour before restoring it to drinking water use or high-end water uses. So you have to wait for the water to reach equilibrium again and stabilise. So
that would be the same for commissioning, right? If you're the first time you fill your tank, or if you clean your tank out and fill it up again, you're going to wait and give that system some time.
Yeah, we're recommending 24 to 48 hours after commissioning, because you have to wait for everything to settle and the water quality to improve before you start.
Hmm.
So anyway, there's a little checklist. So we ended up writing a number of other checklists, but we're sure we can talk about that in the maintenance part of this course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.